Welcome to the Faith Clinic Fellowship Podcast with me, Evangelist Terry Brunson. You are the guest. Make yourself at home to relax your mind, to open your spiritual side, to be God immersed in faith's comforts. Our topic of study is Advancing Faith and the Power of God. Listen as I read 1 Corinthians 2 verses 4-5. And my speech and preaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power. Neither should your faith stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. Paul, the writer, nails down where faith truly stands. It's in the power of God's work. Faith is an advancing force that activates the power of God to stretch beyond the distinctions of all denominational creeds expressed in religion by the wisdom of men. Religion sets boundaries on God's concept of faith and lands it in a status quo on the ABCs of faith to ask, believe, and claim. But God's concept of faith advances beyond religious lines and progresses beyond the religious trend. God's concept in faith is not as a plank measured to reach, but so far. God's concept of faith is like an elastic band that stretches to advance faith beyond a status quo of the ABCs of faith, unto the D, E, F, G, unto the X, Y, Z, and beyond in God's power of things. God's concept of faith runs the whole gamut of the alphabet beyond the man-made claques of religious beliefs that clash with God's concept of faith. Faith's manifestation holds to a God concept which God has chosen by His power. 1 Corinthians 1 verses 27-28 says God has chosen faith to confound the wise in seeing things which are not, to bring to naught things that are, that no flesh should glory in His presence, to get beyond. Have you ever heard of the Twilight Zone? Well, welcome to God's Faith Zone. God's concept of faith pushes further than religion can imagine. God's concept of faith progresses past all demonstrational realms to show His power by a supernatural work of the Spirit that religion can never match. God's concept of faith is unlimited in its scope to advance beyond religious marks. God's concept of faith and religion's concept of faith are not the same. Religion sets its faith at an ending point as like a 2x4 plank that gets fixed to a limit, where God's concept of faith advances beyond the 2x4 plank to stretch beyond religious marks. Many are stuck in a religious concept of faith that can't get faith's dimension to venture past the history talk of founders and pioneers who brought the religion claque into being on what to believe as their statements of faith that demonstrate no power. Religion speaks of its doctrines and duties on how its membership should toe the religious line in an order set to be followed in a status quo. That's not God's outlook. That is the outlook of the wisdom of men trying to build a religious empire of followers instead of advancing people into God's ability to move beyond religious aspects to a sense of the real power of God. Faith can be perfected to a new horizon to adjust its flow to correct that which is lacking in the faith found in the Bible. It is time to get back to Bible faith. 1 Thessalonians 3 verse 10 says, Night and day Paul prayed exceedingly to see the people of Thessalonica to help them perfect that which is lacking in their faith. Paul founded a church in Thessalonica whose faith was lacking in the power of God. That church lacked the power to get beyond the hackles of trusting to romances of religion to a moral code of works of faith not in line with a demonstration of God's power. Paul prayed that he would come to perfect their stinking thinking of casting faith in the wisdom of men, which limited the work of the power of God. They were missing the truth on planting faith in the soil of the heart to grow in courage, boldness, assurance, and confidence in God's power to show His ability to reach beyond challenging situations they faced. The only reason why faith fails to advance further than it was made to go is due to the limits people set on faith to advance beyond the status quo. 1 Corinthians 2 verse 5 says, Faith stands not in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. Faith's demonstration stands in a God-sensed power to open people to a greater demonstration of faith. Faith can increase to advance beyond our measure of faith, or our little faith to find its way to a great faith working in God's ability. Faith stands in the object of God. Faith is no better than the object upon which it stands. To lose that focus would cause us to misplace faith, to rest it upon the wrong things like religious formulas, doctrines and duties, primacies of precepts to follow on traditions, and lies. There are so many half-truths placed on faith that have become whole lies. People put faith in governmental policies of the welfare care plans of the land, and they neglect the true object of real faith, God. There is no power by God's power to have faith in. Faith's power lies in the object in which it rests. Faith in God puts God at the focal point of all power and faith's function. Faith in God has the deepest dimensions of power. Psalm 62 verse 11 says, All power belongs unto God. The weakest faith in the right object is far better than a misplaced faith in the wrong object, or in other words, the least amount of faith in the right object is better than a strong faith in the wrong object. Faith never stands alone. Faith's object is God. Paul wants us to see that faith doesn't rest in man's wisdom. Real faith rests in God. Mark 11 verse 22 says, Jesus saith unto all, have faith in God. Jesus set the bar on where to rest faith. He pointed to the object of faith when he said, have faith in God. Putting faith in God provokes God to move out of the ordinary into the extraordinary to fix all situations. The objective of faith connects with Psalm 9 verse 10, which says, they that know God will put faith in him. You won't miss if you work with this. We have only one object of faith to put faith in: God. Well, I will pause for a cause to give time for you to recap what has been said about advancing faith in the power of God. I am not fished on the topic, but I am done for now. The topic of faith is a topic that should swallow up all others. It is the one that gets God to work on your behalf to help you move through life under His guidance for your good and His glory. If you can, we invite you to give an offering of support to the Faith Clinic cause. You can get up off that tang and cash app a donation which will leave your hand but never your life. It will go into your future to multiply into a harvest of blessings to overshadow the works of your hand under God's care and power to win every battle of life's living. God will bless your coming in and going out, and all that you faith in the future to do. The Cash App is a fine way to deliver your donation of support. When you give to Faith Clinics, because you are helping yourself to win an opportunity to be blessed by God richly and more than you realize. That Cash App is $Brunson61. That Cash App is your connection to the protection of God's power to work for you. Give and it will be given to you in a return. God's glory of giving is to get as an investment in His cause. Nothing leaves heaven until a gift comes from the earth. Says John 3 verse 27. Giving to God is like making a vow. Job 22 verses 27 to 28 says, You shalt make your prayer unto Him, and He shall hear thee, and thou shalt pay thy vows. You shalt also decree a thing by an interest in your life, and it shall be established, because you gave as God asked, and He will shine a light upon your ways to fulfill all dreams and plans. But it can't start until you give up on the low lines of living. To move up to the Rolex style of living, you are going to have to come off the Time X way of giving. Psalms 50 verse 5 says, Gather my the saints together and ask them to make a covenant by a sacrifice of money. An offering of God's blessing. You can start right now on a Case App of Support TI. God has placed on the screen the Cash App as $Brunson61. That is $TERRYBRUNSON61. Sow a seed to grow into a harvest. The money you give will be seen in a return from the hand of God. You can't get until you give. You will always get more than you give. You'll always get later than you give, and you always get moved than you give. Why waste a delay? Cash App today on faith that God will fulfill His word. Proverbs 10 verse 22, The blessings of the Lord make you rich, and He adds no sorrow with it. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 19 says, Every man whom God gives riches will also have the power to get more wealth by the labors of your hands to rejoice in the gift of God. Money will become your defense to fight poverty's grip, to trip you up, to knock you down. Says Ecclesiastes 7 verse 12, Money can defend you to get you almost anything. Ecclesiastes 10 verse 19 say money answers all things to enjoy. But to get there you got to learn to get up off that tang and place a seed of money support that will grow into a harvest of gain for you to enjoy for showy. The Cash App is on the screen as $Brunson61. That is $TERRYBRUNSON61. Sow a seed to grow into a harvest. Plant your seed of support today right away. BS walks, but money talks. Make your mind a magnet of money by giving a seed gift of support. $5, $10, $20, $50 or more. One gave a donation of $1,000 and gave a testimony of a 100-fold return of $10,000. That can be you too. Get in on the 100-fold return. Make you quest to Cash App to $TERRYBRUNSON61. And always remember, you don't have any problems, all you need is faith in God. I am Evangelist Terry Brunson, God's man of faith and power. Faith is the plan, God is the man that will make all your dreams a reality to come to pass. Have faith in God. When all seems lost and gone, have faith in God. Continue to trust and hold on. Have faith in God. For trouble won't last too long. Numbers 6:24-26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and grace you with his peace.